And it comes from a certain place, it comes from a caring place. Like, that's what we're here to do. Like, we actually care about these people. We don't really know them that well, but we actually care about them. And if you take that approach rather than a sales approach, which is, oh, I'm here to sell you something today, or I'm here to get you into the office, it's completely different. Anytime somebody tells me something bad has happened to one of them or one of their family members, I always tell them, well, I'm going to be praying for you. And I know that they may not be a person of faith, but most people that are sick, have lost a family member or something like that, when I let them know, hey, I can't do a whole lot for you over the phone, but I'm going to pray for your daughter. I mean, they don't even need to be a person of faith, but all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, So that's one thing too, you could dig a little deeper there and say, well, do you know anybody that's gotten ill? Or, I'm curious, what's your experience with COVID? And they may reveal to you, well, yeah, I was sick last week and, I'm still feeling like crap, I'm really sorry to hear that. I'm going to be praying for you. I'd like to check in on you in a few weeks and see how you're doing. Okay. And it comes from a certain place, it comes from a caring place. That's what we're here to do. We actually care about these people. We don't really know them that well, but we actually care about them. And if you take that approach rather than a sales approach, which is, oh, I'm here to sell you something today, or I'm here to get you into the office, it's completely different. And so that's what I would say when you do get somebody on the phone about COVID. Rather than just exit that conversation, try to dig a little deeper and see where those emotions are coming from. It may just be that they're watching way too much of the news, and they're freaked out because every time they turn on the TV, it scares them and freaks them out, and you can identify that early on and just find ways to add value to people. Maybe they do need some light and some good news in their life, But that's one thing too, when you're young, this is one thing I've noticed with the younger generation while we're on this topic. And I don't know if it's cell phones or technology or what it is, but we've been so self-consumed in ourselves. It was already a challenge for older generations, but it seems like older generations, because we didn't have all the technology, we kind of looked a little bit more to add value to people and build relationships a little bit more. With the younger generations, it's it doesn't really matter. It's just and even they could have 10,000 followers on Instagram and not really have a solid relationship with one of those 10,000 people, And even their personal relationships many times are just real self-centered, I'm here for me, I'm here and I don't really care what you're doing. And they influence each other, but they're more influenced by, whatever it is, that Instagram person that basically, has a six-pack or, goes to the gym every day and does the workout, and I worry about that, I really do, because we're becoming so distant, social media and everything could have brought us a little bit closer together, but it actually made us more distant. That's why suicide rates are up. That's why, kids, having mental problems and social problems are a real issue today, is because we're not building relationships. And so you guys, Ben and Aaron, are both a part of that younger generation. And so one of the things I've noticed about your conversations is they can move a little bit faster. We're trying to get to the goal, the KPI, if you will, and there's not that kind of slow, I've noticed more in Marcos, Albert, and of course the older generation, where there's a little bit more commitment to expand upon the conversation. There's a little bit more of a curiosity to want to actually know about other people, and what I would say is that's wisdom right there. I think it says in Proverbs, white hairs or gray hairs are like a crown on your head of wisdom, because it's true. With age, you get some of that wisdom. And you young men, if we can help you get that same amount of wisdom early on in your life, we're going to help you be tremendously successful, okay? Because the average young man, I know me for one, it can be incredibly ignorant. I know I was extremely ignorant in my early 20s. But I got it by my mid to late 20s. I started to figure it out. Enough bad stuff happens to you because of that ignorance, and finally you're you know what? Maybe I need to change. Maybe I need to maybe I need to listen to some of these old guys, Maybe I need to take some of their advice,
Need Jesus.
Right. Maybe I should go to church and see what that's all about, And so that would be my, and Ben, it's a good question that you asked there. You've heard me say it over and over and over again with you, is just kind of slow it down a little bit. But I think that if you guys are keeping up with that book right now, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's pretty much the primary topic of the book, is be generally interested in other people, which only happens by asking questions and really wanting to know the answer. Not asking a question just to ask it because it's a rapport building question that could lead to an appointment. No, like asking it and like actually wanting to know. Actually wanting to know like what they do for a living, and actually wanting to like know, where their kids go to school and if it's a good school, you know what I mean? And that's what I'd say. Once you figure that out, everything starts going differently, And you got to put the phone down, you got to turn the notifications off, you got to actually not answer it, not look at it, not even be concerned with that, and really like focus on that call and on that person. Because that's when you're going to see, wow, you know what? My relationship, people actually want to talk to me more, and especially young people, because when you get an old guy like us on the phone and we see a young person that's like genuinely interested, we're like, wow, this is great. I had a young lady I sat next to a young lady on the flight. She was 22 years old, brilliant young lady. She just graduated from the Navy Institute. This young lady was like big time, like I've never seen a 22-year-old. But anyways, I'm on the plane, right? And I sit next to her, and I'm reading my book, and she's reading a book as well. When she, first off the bat, like extremely young lady reading a book. And I noticed the author of that book is Brene Brown, okay? Brene Brown is a phenomenal author. She actually, I think, has the #1 or #2 TED Talk that's ever been recorded. And she does a lot of like really awesome work in terms of leadership, in terms of vulnerability, etc. And so the first kind of 15, 20 minutes, we're just kind of doing our own thing. I'm reading my book, she's reading her book. And I get up to use the restroom, I come back, and while I'm sitting down, kind of excusing each other for the inconvenience, I say, hey, I noticed you're reading a Brene Brown book. She's like, yeah, she's great. I was like, that's tremendous. I've actually seen her speak in person at a convention, and I read her other book, Dare to Lead. I'm like, it's such a good book. Well, that one introduction led us into probably about an hour and a half conversation. It turns out that she's in the process of getting her first home in Florida. She's going to use her VA loan, okay, for the first time. She's going to move a couple of her roommates in to live with her. I found out all about her younger brother still goes to Brandeis, and so I told her about my son who goes. We found all this commonality. We get off the plane. I'm going to refer her an agent in Florida to help her. She's going to be using her VA loan. I gave her all these tips and strategies of how she can negotiate a better price and get better terms from her lender. She walked off that plane, and that young lady got at least 10 grand, maybe 15 grand worth of advice from me. And it's all because I had a genuine interest in caring about the kind of book she was reading. Which, by that, my respect for her went up like 110%, because I think that's probably the first time I've ever seen a 22-year-old with a Brene Brown book in her hand. And so, because I cared and because I really started to engage in that conversation, it went very well. And it'll also be a referral for this office, where we'll make probably, she's going to buy a $300,000 house in Florida. We'll probably make, 3 or 4 grand off that deal. And we're really helping her because she's saving a bunch of money too. And she's in the service. She's a officer in the Navy, and so we're doing a great thing for an active duty military person as well. All because I cared enough to ask her about the book she was reading. That's simple.